Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Make sure to subscribe and like the video for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh content. So we've got some more additions to Dueling Terminal. So we'll just cover those. We've got SHADDOLLS Genius. It's an Earth attribute machine flip effect monster. It's level 4 with 1,800 attack and 1,000 defense. You can only use one of this card's name's first or second effects per turn and only once that turn. Flip. You can target one SHADDOLLS monster you control. This turn it is unaffected by monster effects while face up on the field except its own. And 2, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one effect monster on the field. It cannot activate its effects on the field for the rest of this turn. I think this is quite a good card. It does have a decent stat lineup for it, and actually being able to protect say one of your other SHADDOLLS, maybe one of your fusion monsters from monster effects whilst it's on the field. I mean, it's not just a turn, it's for as long as it's basically on the field. Granting that level of protection can be very decent, especially with many players now relying more heavily on monster effects and monster effect destruction as opposed to their spell and traps. The other thing is the secondary effect of it actually helps to shut down your opponent, because if they get rid of this, one of their effect monsters gets punished for that turn, assuming they haven't used the effect already. But you know, the thing is, it's just when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect. You could send it by your own effect. You could use I think it's SHADDOLLS Fusion. If you use something like that, you can get this in the graveyard and shut down an opponent's monster without them being able to respond effectively to it. And so that makes it a lot more consistent. The other card we've got is SHADDOLLS Void. It's a fire attribute fiend flip effect monster, level 9 with 2,900 in both attack and defense. You can only use this card's name's first or second effect per turn and only once that turn. 1, flip. You can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one SHADDOLLS monster with the same attribute from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, banish that target. 2, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of different original attributes on the field. This card is incredibly powerful for the deck for a couple of reasons. Firstly, outside of the fusions, this is basically the biggest monster you've got there. I don't remember anything. I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 fusion monsters that are a bit bigger than this, but this is just an effect monster and it can do all this. The ability to kind of get rid of one of your opponent's troubling monsters is brilliant, because they're banished, and often when they're banished it's more difficult for your opponent to recover them, and you're actually able to send a SHADDOLLS from the extract to the graveyard, which means if they have one of the attributes, it helps you to fusion summon into one of your other SHADDOLLS monsters a bit easier. The other thing is as well, of course, a number of your SHADDOLLS monsters, when they're milled, have different effects as well, helping to search for your spell and traps. So even the secondary effect, even if you were to send this to fuse into something, or even if your opponent was to get rid of this card, they'd be definitely punished for it. Next card is Galaxy Eyes Cypher X Dragon. This is a light attribute dragon, exceeds rank 10 with 4,000 attack and 3,000 defense. It requires 2 level 10 monsters, and once per turn you can also exceed summon Galaxy Eyes Cypher X Dragon by using a Cypher Dragon monster you control as material. And when you do that, you transfer its materials to this card. First effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card. Your opponent cannot target light monsters you control with card effects until the end of the turn. The second effect, once per turn during a standby phase, you can return 1 rank 9 or lower Dragon Exceeds monster from your graveyard to the extra deck, then special summon that monster from your extra deck by using this card you control as material. This is treated as an Exceeds summon. Transfer this card's materials to the summoned monster. It seems to me that Exceeds materials and Exceeds summoning have become much faster and a little bit more unusual. The whole idea of Exceeds summoning was to go into specific monsters, and to therefore be kind of limited to just going into those monsters. Even when you consider ranking up, usually it would just rank up once or twice, or rank down once or twice. And now you can get things that are ranked up or down in so many different ways: left, right, horizontal, vertical, X, Y, Z, gamma, beta, delta, alpha, epsilon. So many different ways that actually the secondary effect of it, I mean, the biggest application I'm thinking of is number 100. It's that Numeron dragon. It's a dragon Xyz monster where basically if you've got other Xyz monsters on the field, it gains 1,000 attack for each rank on the field, including its own. I know it's only in rank 1, but you have any of the other Galaxy Eyes kind of cards out there, the rank 8s, you could easily be getting a 16,000 attack monster, and that's forgetting that your opponent might be running stuff as well. So that secondary effect is incredibly dangerous. I'm not so fussed on the first effect of detach 2 materials, as you know, okay, you're protecting your light monsters from card effects until the end of their turn, but you know, okay, that'll buy you a little bit of time. But your opponent, if they're going to respond to anything, they'll respond to this way before you can actually trigger that effect, just to get rid of it. The next card is Larval Archer. It's a Fire Pyro effect, level 4 with 1,000 attack and 200 defense. You can only use this card's name's second effect once per turn. If this card is normal summoned, you can activate this effect. During the main phase this turn, you can normal summon 1 larval monster in addition to your normal summon set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. 2. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 fire monster you control. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except fire monsters also destroy that target, and if you do, special summon this card in defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. I don't actually know what the capabilities of Larval are. I know they used to be really big when Rekindling was around, and you know, they were very explosive. This lets you normal summon again, but also I suppose it could be used as tribute fodder for the secondary effect. I can't remember from the top of my head how powerful the Larvals were, but generally speaking, of today's standards, I don't think they'd be good enough to be running anyway. Okay, so we've got a synchro monster as well for Larvals. It's Laval Salamander. It's a fire dragon synchro effect level 7 with 2,600 attack and 200 defense, and it requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner fire monsters. You can only use this card's name's first effect once per turn. 1. If this card is synchro summoned, you can draw 2 cards. Then send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including at least 1 fire monster, or if you do not have any fire monsters in your hand, reveal your entire hand and shuffle it into the deck. And 2, once per turn, you can banish 1 fire monster from your graveyard, change face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position, up to the number of larval monsters you control. Okay, so the first effect basically lets you kind of almost reload your hand. I compare it a little bit to like Allure of Darkness as well, like a combination of Reload and Allure of Darkness. Because if you don't draw into the fire monster in the same way that, Allure of Darkness, you need to draw into a dark monster. In this case, you shuffle all of them back to your hand, into your deck from the hand. With Allure of Darkness, it basically banishes everything. So it's a bit of a trade-off. You're not probably going to use it as a desperate plea because essentially, even though you've got this as a synchro monster, you don't want to just be relying heavily on this. It's got no real protection outside of its, attack stat. The secondary effect actually is able to kind of... It's a shame that it doesn't Book of Moon on your opponent's turn, and it only works on yours, because I think that would be an amazing effect for it. The ability to do this anyway means you're shutting down your opponent's effects, especially their monster effects, which means you can get over them a lot easier. My problem with this card is just the defense stat on it is awful. It's got no real protection, and your opponent is probably going to be quite aware of what this card is, being a new pack. So that means they will probably try and get rid of the tuner or the non-tuner monster to prevent the synchro happening in the first place. So out of these cards, which one do you like the most? Personally, for me, it has got to be... I suppose that it's actually the first one, because being able to grant monster effect protection is something brilliant. I know it's specific to the SHADDOLLS, and actually it was kind of necessary, otherwise I'd see this getting splashed into all manner of things. I don't really have any opinions on most of the others, but you've heard what I've got to say. Whatever you think, leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.